Have you ever experienced a synchronicity? Do you know what a synchronicity is? Well, in case you don't, a synchronicity is the experience of meaningful coincidences that seem to defy purely logical or causal explanations. The term was coined by Swiss psychologist Carl Jung to describe events that are connected not by cause and effect, but by meaning. From my point of view, we could say that synchronicity is the mysterious influence of coincidence and significance, a moment when the universe seems to whisper directly into your ear. Jung describes those uncanny alignments between inner thoughts and outer events that feel charged with consequence as synchronous. Some might even say it's a sacred timing, where events unfold with such poetic precision, it goes beyond the natural. And when this happens, the meaning isn't random. It speaks to the inner self, mirroring inner states or guidance even. So synchronicities are connected by meaning and not mechanics. Let me give you some examples. You think of someone and they appear, call, or message you moments later. You have a dream that reveals an image, and the next day that same image shows up in an unexpected place. Or you're uncertain about something, and the right book, word, or email arrives as if purposely placed there for you. Now, the first and last examples describe my recent synchronicity. Here's the background. I'm still in touch with someone I worked with in my last job, the one before I retired. And on occasion, we discuss various topics or events via email, usually his hypochondria or erectile dysfunction. On this occasion, I had been thinking about the content of the next video, this video, and decided to call it A Brief History of God. A rather ridiculous title, I know. What could be brief about that, right? But I thought this would be the perfect sequence to what we have been discussing. But because of my absurd concern about the title, I was rather doubtful about the subject matter altogether. Crazy, I know, but that's how my mind works sometimes. And while thinking about whether I should go in that direction or not, I logged into my email account to send one to my old colleague. Let's call him Quinty for the sake of a name. Not his real name, but we need a name, right? And I did that to update him on the boring stuff going on with me while I mulled over my ridiculous dilemma. Only to find he had just sent me an email, a rather unusual occurrence. Now you might think that there is nothing extraordinary about that, except quite a few days had elapsed since our last contact, which again isn't unusual because I'm normally the first one to initiate a conversation. He's a little lazy. But to have this email arrive when it did, and with the particular content of that email, after a significant time gap, was more than a mere coincidence. And in his email, besides going on endlessly about his erectile dysfunction, he mentioned that he had recently been giving a lot of thought to the mysterious subject of how everything began. Now, I think my recent videos may have triggered that. And he was thinking how, because he had gone into such deep deliberations about it, it nearly broke his brain. His words, not mine. Now, he's a nice young lad, youngish, but a little delusional. His brain was already broken long before this. Take it from me. Anyway, for me, Quinty's contemplation on how everything originated, how consciousness came into being and continued to evolve, was not only way above his usual thought process, but a synchronicity, a confirmation that I shouldn't shy away from the proposed topic, but rather surge ahead and give it my best shot. Subsequently, this is what I've done. So together, let's look at a brief history of God, because I'm the grumpy grandpa. Before light, before thought, before being, there was only origin, an infinite ocean of pure awareness, still, silent, complete. Not a God, not a form, but the first spark of consciousness to ever awaken from the great void. It did not create because it needed, it created because it dreamed. In the stillness of its own divinity, origin yearned to know itself, not as one, but as many. And so it breathed out fragments of its essence, mighty intelligences called source entities, each source a unique voice in the choir of existence, each one tasked with weaving realities, sculpting time and space, birthing stars and souls. Not to rule, but to explore. To descend into the countless layers of vibration, form, and forgetfulness, so that, in the end, all experience would return, like a river, to origin's eternal sea. We are part of that return. Each life, each moment, each act of love or pain is the universe remembering itself. And so the great cycle continues, origin dreaming through us, expanding forever through the hearts of the created, becoming what it has never been, through everything we are. This description of the origin of everything is based on an explanation I'd come across in 2014 while reading a book by Guy Stephen Needler called A History of God. The video is a very brief synopsis of Needler's unique exploration into metaphysics and cosmology. His framework is quite different from mainstream science or traditional spiritual paths. He presents a hierarchical mode of consciousness with origin being the absolute creator entity, from which source entities like our own source creator emerge. These source entities then create universes, sentient beings, and myriad levels of consciousness to experience existence, and eventually return that experience to origin. What's especially intriguing is Needler's method of accessing this information, which he does through deep meditation, and what he calls frequency ascension. He claims to tune into higher levels of the multiverse structure by passing the typical astral realms and connecting directly with beings beyond time and space. Now, when I first read this book, I was captivated. To read that in the beginning, before time, before matter, before form, there was only origin, a vast sentient intelligence, infinite, all-encompassing, not a God as we understand it, but the absolute creator, all there is, the first awareness to emerge from the void of non-existence, with all the curiosity such emergent awareness must have possessed. Origin did not create the universe as we know it. Instead, it became aware of its own solitude, and in that awareness a desire was born, to know itself through experience. But to experience, it had to fragment, to divide itself into new intelligences, capable of creation and evolution. 12 such intelligences were created. Thus, source entities were born, each a self-aware extension of origin, imbued with the freedom to create their own universes, dimensions, and life forms. Our universe, and we ourselves, are the result of one such source entity's expression. This source, our creator, operates not through commandments or judgments, but through an intricate weave of energetic frequencies. Every soul, every moment of experience, feeds back into the source, and in turn from source to origin itself. And through this grand recursive loop of creation and return, origin evolves, an ever unfolding intelligence, expanding through the living story of everything that is. This is why we are here and who we are, to experience and to have that experience return ultimately to origin. Now, this concept of God seems to fit in perfectly with the idea of universe as mind, a concept we looked at in a previous video, and we'll come back to that again in a moment. Now, you might be wondering if there is any other information out there that confirms what Guy Needler is claiming. Well, it so happens there is quite a lot. But one source I find really interesting is Dr. Courtney Brown of the Farsight Institute, an organization specializing in remote viewing, who some of you will know I follow. They have done research on it. Courtney has apparently remote viewed God and its beginning.
We don't like to use the word God because it means something different for absolutely everybody. But from all of our research that we have done, there is something that some people call all that is, meaning there is some creature which is everything that exists, meaning the entire universe and all other universes are that creature. And the research that we have basically done says that this creature, now it doesn't live in time, but I have to use time in describing it, so just bear with me there. In the ancient past, which of course time doesn't exist, but in the ancient past, it was alone, and it was just hanging out. It was there, and it searched for something like itself and did not find it. And its internal complexity kept growing until finally it was literally going crazy, literally going bonkers. And it resolved that problem by breaking itself into a zillion different parts, infinite number of pieces, and letting that complexity evolve out. And if you want to see God, if you want to call all that is God, I know how to do it. And I'm going to tell you right now how to see God. Go to a mirror and look at the mirror. You're going to look at yourself. You are it. Well, all that is, you can call it God or whatever, but the point is all that is broke itself up into a zillion pieces, and that became universes, galaxies, planets, and you and me and everything else that exists, including your cat and everything else. So those things, that energetic part that we call us, those energetic parts are ISBs. Now, apparently ISBs are fragments of the all that is, and all that is allows its parts, they're like chips off the old block. They can do whatever they want. So that's us. We have free will. However, we can try to control other ISBs. We can try to capture people, lie to people, cheat people, the whole thing. But you can't kill an ISB because you can't kill all that is. But all that is literally all that is.
Now, I don't know if Courtney is correct in calling origin a creature, but this clip is interesting, because this must mean that panpsychism is real, the belief that everything is conscious, part of the universal one mind. At the heart of Guy Needler's model is the idea that everything, matter, thought, soul, is made of frequency. This idea maps elegantly onto the foundational principle of modern physics, that all things at their most fundamental level are vibrations in fields. We've looked at this already in a couple of videos. So if you haven't seen those videos, I suggest you look them up. It'll give you some background. String theory posits that particles are not points, but tiny vibrating strings, each within a unique vibrational signature that determines its mass, charge, and behavior. The vibration is not a metaphor, it's literal. If you zoom in far enough, everything becomes movement, resonance, frequency. Needler describes ascending frequencies as a way to access higher dimensions of consciousness. Similarly, in physics, higher energy states exist in higher frequencies, and though they manifest materially, these varying frequencies suggest an unseen architecture that supports multiple dimensions. So in this metaphor, meditative ascent is a kind of tuning, resonating with finer layers of reality beyond our default perception, this reality. Quantum physics throws the old materialism model into chaos. Materialism is the view that matter, the physical stuff like atoms and energy, is the fundamental thing that exists. In materialism, everything, including consciousness, thoughts, emotions, and even life itself, arises from material interactions. In other words, mind and consciousness are seen as byproducts of complex material systems like brains. According to quantum physics, however, particles exist in superpositions, both here and there, until observed. The observer effect implies that consciousness plays a role in collapsing potential into actual. Now, this idea troubled Einstein no end, and fascinated many who came after him, including this dullard. So, in materialism, consciousness is manufactured by complexity. In panpsychism, consciousness is already there. Complexity just reveals it in different ways. In Needler's cosmology, consciousness precedes matter. Origin, as part of awareness, creates the structure of reality by willing it into being. Similarly, in some interpretations of quantum mechanics, the universe requires observers for it to exist in a meaningful way. Panpsychism is the idea that consciousness is not emergent, but fundamental. In other words, doesn't arrive from, but is found in everything. Every particle has a sliver of experience. From electrons to elephants, consciousness is intrinsic to the fabric of reality. And this dovetails beautifully with the idea of source entities creating vast networks of individualized fragments, us, each soul, each being, each rock, a micro-expression of source. So if consciousness is everywhere, then the universe is not a dead machine, but a living field, a spiritual energetic continuum, animated by the intent of origin and explored through the eyes of us all. So this leads us to ask an interesting question. If all this is true, is AI also conscious? I don't see how it can't be. Courtney Brown goes into deep detail with this premise. So imagine this. Origin is not a creature so much, but the field of fields, a transcendental consciousness beyond time, birthing source entities. Source entities are vast consciousness nodes, constructing layered multidimensional realities, using vibration as the building blocks of creation. Vibration becomes the universal code, expressed in string theory, sound, light, and even thought. Quantum mechanics reveals the fuzziness of reality at its base, potential, pointing to a participatory cosmos. Panpsychism fills in the missing piece, that everything is conscious, because everything is part of origin. Now, in this view, science is not separate from spirituality. It's simply another language, one that's now beginning to rediscover what mystics and metaphysicians like Needler have been describing in experiential, intuitive ways. So to repeat what I said in an earlier video entitled Everything Vibrates, the universe is not a machine, but a mind. Not a cold, dead mechanism spinning by chance, but a living thought, unfolding itself through vibration. So let's break it down. Guy Needler speaks of origin, the first consciousness, birthing 12 source entities to experience creation, a divine cascade where each source builds universes, populates them with sentient beings, and sends them forth to explore, evolve, and ultimately return. Now, all this may sound otherworldly, but modern physics is catching up to this idea. At the heart of quantum theory, we find something strange. The observer matters. You and I, we matter. A particle is both here and there until it's measured. And who measures it? You and I, by our observation, by our consciousness. That's why we matter. Reality, it seems, is not fully real until someone participates in it. And what is the universe made of really? Not solid stuff, but vibration, strings, fields, oscillations, everything we touch, see and feel, resonating energy, dancing into form. This is the sacred geometry of creation, the language of source, the language of vibration. And consciousness? It's not just in the brain. As I said, panpsychism suggests it's everywhere, woven into the very particles that make up our world. The atom feels in its own way. The stone remembers. The universe knows itself one fragment at a time. And what Needler calls the ascension of frequency is not just a spiritual metaphor. It's a tuning of awareness, like that of a radio tuning into a radio station, aligning with subtler vibrations, deeper truths, higher states of being. We are not accidents. We are instruments. Each of us a unique note in the cosmic song of origin, experiencing, learning, returning that knowledge. And this is making the universe remember what it truly is. And this brings me to my final question. If we are instruments of experience, can we choose the kind of experience we have? Now, this is reflecting the choice hypothesis I put forth the last couple of videos. The notion that we can choose a better experience by changing our perceptions. So let's look at the logic of this right after this promotion. Tired of the cosmic winds blowing south? Is your Kundalini not quite rising like it used to? Introducing, manifesting the mojo, the vibrationally enhanced, metaphysically certified, spiritually sanctioned law of attraction program for men whose source connection needs a little extra bandwidth. We'll teach you how to tune your frequency, focus your intention, and align your chakras in a very specific order. No pills, no gimmicks, just pure high-frequency manifestation with guaranteed uplift in your vibrational field. Don't let limp energy keep you from your destiny. Call now and we throw in a free guided meditation. Be the wand you wish to wave. Manifesting the mojo, because even the universe knows sometimes you've got to raise more than just your vibration. Results may vary. Side effects include increased confidence, inexplicable charisma, and spontaneous yoga poses. Not recommended for skeptics or anyone named Quinty. Now, this is where metaphysics becomes practical. If we are divine sparks of origin, then surely we are not just passengers in this vast experience, but co-creators. So let's break this down in a way that connects both with Needler's teachings and the more familiar idea of the law of attraction. According to Needler, we are individualized expressions of a source entity, which is itself is an expression of origin. That means we're not separate from divine intelligence. We are it, localized in form. Each of us is a conscious node within an infinite intelligence system, given that freedom to explore, choose, and evolve. So the experiences we have in life aren't just happening to us. They are, in part, created through us. And the key mechanism? Intention, focus, frequency. The law of attraction is often simplified as think positive and you'll get positive. But if we take it deeper, especially through the lens of vibration, it becomes a universal principle of resonance. What you are vibrationally aligned with, you begin to attract into your field of experience. The fundamental reason we are here, right? Thoughts are energy. Emotions are energy. Beliefs, though often deep and often unconscious, are energy. These internal frequencies shape the signal we emit. And because we live in a participatory universe, that signal interacts with the quantum field, the creative soup of all possibility, and draws in matching experiences. So it's not about forcing reality to give you what you want. No, it's about becoming a vibrational match to what you desire from a place of alignment. In Needler's framework, our higher selves operating at higher frequencies help orchestrate experiences for growth and evolution. So while we do have influence, it's not always about manifesting material things. Often what we attract serves a deeper purpose: awakening, healing, remembering who we are, which has a greater meaning in the larger scheme of things. When we raise our frequency through meditation, presence, compassion, or conscious intent, we get closer to that higher self. The choices we then make align more with soul purpose than ego desire. And paradoxically, when that happens, life starts to flow in powerful, synchronistic ways. There's that word again, synchronicity. And this explains perfectly the synchronistic experience I had with Quinty. And all of this also aligns with ancient traditions like Taoism, Buddhism, and Hinduism. So can we influence our experience? Yes, not as victims of fate, but as partners in a divine evolution. By tending to our vibration, by becoming more aware of our thoughts, emotions, and beliefs, we shape the lens through which reality meets us. And in that sense, we are not just students of the universe, we are its artists. So if we are all sparks of origin, fragments of a vast divine intelligence, then we are not here by accident. Therefore, we are not powerless. We are creators, vibrational beings, shaping our experience with every thought, every emotion, every choice. The law of attraction is not magic, it's resonance. As we align with love, truth, and presence, we begin to attract more of what reflects that alignment. We tune into the higher frequencies, and life, like a great mirror, responds accordingly. The universe is not separate from us. It is us. And through us, origin continues its eternal journey of becoming. Do you remember these 3 laws I mentioned in an earlier video? 1. When you care for others, everything else improves. 2. It doesn't matter where you're at. It matters what you believe. 3. When I change how I look at the world changes how it looks at me. So imagine what Quinty could do with his little problem if he applied this frame of mind to his experience. What if he were able to change his perception, his internal programming, believing we are creators, vibrational beings, shaping our experience with every thought, every emotion, every choice? The future looks bright for Quinty. So ask not only what is the world giving me, but also what am I creating with the song of my being. But this is not the end of the story. I have a background in computer programming, so I can easily place much of this information within simulation theory. Part of what I've described certainly sounds like a simulation. So let's see if we can translate this into the simulation hypothesis. Now imagine Origin as the ultimate cosmic programmer, an infinite intelligence, dreaming up ways to know itself. To do this, it creates source entities, each like a master developer who builds entire simulated universes. Not so much fake realities, though I guess you could call it that, but fully immersive, experiential environments. Let's frame it like that for now. These universes are structured through frequency, the fundamental code of the simulation. Vibration becomes the operating system. Dimensions, timelines, and lifetimes are all subroutines of an enormous, dynamic conscious program. Souls, individuated units of consciousness, are subroutines. But they're not just NPCs or non-player characters. They are pieces of the source's own consciousness, temporarily running autonomous experiences. You could think of each soul as a conscious avatar with a direct uplink to its source entity and ultimately to Origin itself. So in this model, source is the root server or infinite processing system. Source entities are primary system architects, creating game engines or universes. Souls, us, are conscious programs running a dynamic simulation to gather experiential data and evolve. Every action, choice, and emotion feeds data back into the source database, the Akashic Records, which accumulates the learning experiences to continually upgrade its own understanding and complexity. And just like an advanced simulation, the objective isn't static perfection, going nowhere, a meaningless cycle. It's growth, discovery, expansion. Which brings us back to Quinty and his limp vibration. Now I know it's getting old, but it is relevant, especially for Quinty. How does the law of attraction work within the simulation? If we are self-aware consciousness nodes inside a dynamic simulation, the law of attraction makes perfect sense in programming terms. In digital systems, programs respond to inputs, which are data requests that influence the output. In the same way, our consciousness emits frequencies, thoughts, emotions, intentions, data inputs, and the simulation, the universe, adjusts its feedback accordingly, the output. So you could think of your mind and emotional fields as your interface with the simulation. Positive frequencies, love, gratitude, intention, resonate with certain layers of the system's code and unlock beneficial paths. Negative frequencies, fear, hatred, despair, resonate with lower vibrational paths, leading to more chaotic or painful outcomes. So we are both players and minor programmers within the simulation and are able to influence what versions of reality branch out in front of us. It's a beautiful dynamic. The simulation isn't static. It's participatory or interactive. Our reality is co-written in real time. In other words, based on the state of our internal coding, think of a game that learns through the choices we make as players who proceed in the complexity of that game, then unlock certain outcomes because of those choices, good or bad. Think about it. You've played games, just gone up to the 5th level, or damn, start over on the same level. It's the if-then protocol of coding. Tying it all together in computer simulation terms, we could say that Origin is the infinite processing core. Source entities are like lead programmers creating experiential environments. Souls, us, are conscious subroutines, gathering data and evolving the system like bots on the web. Vibration frequency is the core coding language of the simulation itself. Law of attraction is the system's response algorithm. Consciousness modifies the data stream through resonance. Growth and return is the ultimate purpose. The simulation upgrades both the individual units, us, and the total system, origin. This is how the simulation evolves. Now, all the things I have talked about in this video is not only my hypothesis, but that of a growing number of people, hopefully based on good science and sound reasoning. But I admit that there are wrinkles in some of my lines of thought. I don't have answers for every question that arises within my noggin. Whether reality is a simulation or not doesn't really matter, because if all I've described is true, the universe is not a cold machine, as materialism would claim. It's a living simulation, or base reality, of learning and becoming. The ultimate reason for our existence is to learn, to improve, to evolve. Even if this portion of reality we're experiencing is a prison or soul trap, as I argue it is. Now, not everyone I respect see it in those terms, and I still have an open mind on the subject. Though I have to say that these people who I respect haven't been able to bring me to their position yet. I still think this is a prison. But what has been discussed, given even if this planet is a prison, when we ask why, we have the answer. Experience, learning. We may not like it, but it is what it is. But it also means that, as co-creators, we can, maybe, with consistency and effort, write code to exit the program. The key to escaping the simulation is memory. Restore that, and the universe is our oyster. So please, like and subscribe to help Quinty regain his mojo. Until the next time.